We started talking about why are we here as a ministry, and we wanted to look at that as a vision team and look at that question of who are we and why are we here and where are we headed into the future. And we've had several significant national voices speak to us about this. And Nisha Manik, on the next slide, Ellen, if you would be so kind, shared with us when she came to speak at our IONS event most recently, which was focused on the Buddha relics and consciousness. She said, "You are not here by mistake." And then shortly thereafter, we heard from Fran Grace that said, "You are here for a reason, Unity Church of the Hills. You are here for a reason." Fran Grace was here with the launch of her book, Power of Love. And then when last year, Ellen and Ryan and I and several others were talking with Dr. Don Beck, who is an international player and leader in the change of the world and what it's working through right now. And he shared with us on the phone, he said, with all that is going on in our world, if I could work with any city in the world to make a difference, it would be Austin, Texas. And if I could work with any ministry in the city of Austin, it would be Unity. And this we share with you because we want you to feel the power of who we are as a collective consciousness and the precise nature of that role that we can uniquely play. I know that you know your peers here in this ministry, those who are sitting all around you. There is a collective consciousness of wisdom, of intelligence, of love, of being active agents within the world that is available in this ministry, and we have coalesced for a reason. We have come together for a purpose. And we have seen that many, many leaders, this Don Beck, he worked with Nelson Mandela to bring peace to South Africa. He went there 65 times to coach this man on how to bring a level of peace in this nation that was pulled apart by strife. For him to say this about who we are and where we are and what we're capable of doing is no small thing. And then we moved forward with John Peterson, a futurist, who was working with our team, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But he shared with us, after coming here pretty much as a pro bono offer to help our ministry get a vision and a focus for where we're headed, he said, "This is an important time in history, and you are here for a reason. Don't screw it up." And he said this to us with tears in his eyes. That's how important he feels that this is and what a precise role that we uniquely as Unity Church of the Hills can play in this important time. We are being called to fulfill our divine potential, and our divine potential is within all of us. And I'd like, with that, to turn it over to Laura, if you would be so kind to share with us more about the visioning process. Yes, Dino. Dino has a very important question. He said, what is it about us here in this ministry that would cause Don Beck to say such a thing? What Don Beck does is he sees the psychological development, the sociological development of all of humanity. That's what his bailiwick is. And there is a thing called spiral dynamics, which talks about how we evolve from a level of tribalism up through levels of consciousness of, they're called memes. And as our consciousness grows, we become capable of doing more in the world and making a difference in the world. He has stratified this, and I would love to bring this level of understanding and seeing the world, because there is a thing called evolutionary consciousness. Just by being conscious of how we as humans evolve helps us to evolve. And we here uniquely are at a level, a very high level of operation that not a lot of the world is at. And that sounds a little bit arrogant, but it's actually true. There is a level of operation that we have evolved to and through, and we're at a point where we can make those pressure points, those leverage points that you can make a difference. We are one of those communities. We are so because of the collection of your consciousnesses that are here, the collection of your skills and your talents that are here. And we have moved toward a level of organization and orchestration of this, that we can move from the goodness that we are at Unity Church of the Hills into the greatness that the Spirit is calling us into. And that's what we see for the next 5 years. I hope I didn't take too long.
Thank you, Kristen. So I'd like to, before we move forward, invite the rest of the team up here. Neil Farazel, Frank Phelan, who's our board representative, John Fleming, and Liz McAleese. So as Brian said, Frank and I did have one of those look at each other moments, along with many other board members that were in the room that evening. And it was one of the first questions that I asked when I joined the board, coming from the business world and decades in marketing. It was, hey, where's our strategic plan? And there's been iterations and inklings of ideas of planning, and certainly where we are today came from a vision, a very, very acute vision. But like any organization that matures and grows, we are moving into our 23rd year. And just like a 23-year-old moves out into the world, we feel very strongly that Unity Church of the Hills is on this precipice of a new beginning. And so what we did, we collectively gathered and really looked at together, who are we? And so this team, Sharisa Alexander is the only one that isn't present. She needed to step off about midstream. But this team was gathered with intention. And the formation of this team happened through several different avenues, one being representation of the board, as I mentioned, with Frank Phelan. Kristen and I actually met last September, and we sat down taking the board criteria that we used to select board members and the criteria that was also used to select the Minister Magnet team, and we really looked at the coalescing of those energies, as well as folks that bring a business acumen, folks that have been through a visioning process or strategic planning process, so that we could get a collective representation of energy and thought and ideas. And so with this team, we really sat down for the first probably 6-8 weeks and really discussed who are we as a congregation from our perspectives. Each of these members of this team have come with lots of experience in volunteerism and leading teams here. And so what we did was we sat down together and we formed a vision statement, an intentional statement that was our guiding light in this process. And it said, led by Spirit, we gather inputs to identify UCOH's current value to our congregation and the community and the future potential of intentional growth. And much like every process that we used, we dithered over every word of this to make sure it appropriately felt with us what the energy of this congregation needs. And so with this insight, we identify UCOH's strategic vision to transform more lives. And so through this process, as I mentioned, Kristen and I met last September. We came up with the criteria, and I won't go through every single step of our timeline, but suffice to say that we have spent over, our accumulation is over 650 working hours together as a team and individually. And the reason why is because just as in your personal lives, without a vision, your ship just sort of goes like this, right? Because we wanted to really collectively gather what the input was from UCOH, as well as where we knew Spirit was calling us to go. And I'll say that as a little backdrop of this, some of you who've been around for a little while, you know that the visioning work we've done with Lance and Jean through that beautiful process, some of the work that happened as the Minister Magnet team was pulling together insights and ideas relative to what we needed in our senior ministers. So we took that collective wisdom, along with insights from Unity Worldwide, which Kristen brought to us, a wealth of information and research, and we used that to start forming a survey, as well as the 2016 congregational survey that we had put together. And we started the process by asking you, who do you think we are being called to be? What value do you see from UCOH? And so from that process, if you'll remember, in April, we did a survey. that lasted about a month, and we collected 246 total responses. From that, we learned the average response of the survey was around 11 plus years, so that was around 30%, which was interesting. So we had a high number of longtime congregants, and then we had the next highest was 1 to 5 years. So that told us that on the ends of our congregation is really where the real opportunity lies. From that, of the responses, the average age was 55 to 64, followed at 35% by 65 to 74. And so that number was interesting and to me just a little bit alarming, because that said to me either our younger congregants didn't feel engaged to respond or they're not here. And at almost 44, I've been one of the youngest people on all of our collective groups. And so that just kind of was a flag for us that we continued to look at as a marker as we looked at our vision. So 11% with kids, and then from that, as Brian mentioned, we knew that just a survey doesn't really capture it, right? Because how do you quantify in a survey how you feel at UCOH? And what your collective desires are. And so we spent a lot of time, Neil was our wizard behind the focus groups. We did 9 focus groups, as well as focus groups with the staff, with the LUTs, and with the chaplains. And so from that insight, which included more than 120 participants, that gave us feedback, we got a wealth of information. Not just high-level vision strategies of where we'd like to go, but really tactical feedback. As simple as you'll notice that there's now a dedicated place for the LUTs and the chaplains that folks can go. There's a Q&A session that follows services. So you've already seen some little changes happening that we've gathered from that feedback. And so with that, then, we really came to some conclusions around all of this feedback. I will say that certainly if you have a desire to look at all of that, it is available. We operate in a transparent model. But I will say that with those hundreds of hours, we poured through everything, every comment, every piece of information, because this is our church. This isn't some idea from me or from Kristen and Brian or from the board. This is our community. It is our vision that's going to be cast forward into our future over the next 5 years. And we intentionally chose 5 years, first of all, because we felt very strongly that was where Spirit was calling us. Because 10 years can sometimes feel a little long out. 3 years isn't long enough, but 5 years is a good space to claim. And so we really looked at this framework for those 5 years. And I'll turn it to Kristen.
The visioning framework that we had created, if you could advance the slide, Ellen, it has a structure to it. And what we have at the very top is our mission, vision, and values. And then below that is the strategic vision for the next 5 years. And then what you will be hearing in just a few minutes is the next 4 focuses that the team has come up to with a lot of discernment. And then what will come forward from those 4 focuses is that will go to the board. The board will have a chance to digest and coalesce around that. And then we will build strategic plans for this following year and specific focuses for us to look at. And then we will do so every year thereafter. And underneath each of those years, we'll have specific goals and strategies, measures, structures, and resources that will be allocated toward them. So just so that you see the overall structure of how that's going to work. And on the next slide, it shares with you our UCOH vision, which is the same as it has always been. We are a community of ever-expanding love and acceptance where lives are transformed. And our mission, we put God first, celebrate lives, serve truth, and empower people to transform their lives. It was a recommendation from the team to take a look at our mission statement and see if that's still accurate and if it's effective for us. And so I think the board will be coming together to take a look at that. And our UCOH values, which are love, Spirit-led, acceptance, spiritual growth, and service. So all of us were taking a look at place in which we were and what was the next step to create the vision. And we had a futurist, John Peterson, come in to speak with us. He was a retired naval officer, an aviator, coming on and off those aircraft carriers, a little precise job there that he had to do. He consulted with us, and he's also consulted with the Pentagon for the future of strategic planning for our U.S. military in all but one branch of the U.S. military, as well as other countries in Asia. So this gentleman has done a lot of strategic planning for the future and looking at the future, and he came to do work with us on a 2-hour evening on Thursday and then all day Friday, all day Saturday. At this workshop were a lot of our staff members, several of our board members, several of our strategic planning team members, and many of those of you in the congregation who said, I want to be a part of this. The energy at that occasion was absolutely palpable. And he invited us to create a vision, much like Walt Disney created for Disneyland. And the feeling of it and the energy of it and who we are and why we're here. And so these next slides share with us that Unity Church of the Hills, in our next 5 years, know where we're at and know where we're headed. We are a bridge to an emerging future. By 2024, Unity Church of the Hills supports the spiritual growth and transformation of our congregants and shines our light boldly into the community. As I mentioned earlier, we have a tremendous amount of skill and talent here that's already here. And that vision is to take that and to move it and to allow it and to support it into organizing in a higher structure, in a higher form to serve more people. To embody this vision, we are a warm and accepting and loving environment where spiritual seekers safely experience change and personal transformation. Any of you experienced personal transformation here? Any of you came and cried and sat and then worked through that and found a new dawn and a new day? Well, that is what we are here to do and to be for the world. The Austin community and potentially for the world. Together we can build a bridge of peace to this transformed world through the avenue of peace in our practices. So how are we going to do this? We support spiritual transformation with, thank you, Alan, meaningful connections. It's one of our bailiwicks here. We also do that through practical tools, prayer, meditation, visualization, contemplation. We have a lot of practical tools to help people find that peace within them. And also we provide healing pathways, the power of affirmative prayer, the yoga, the healthy food. There's so many different ways that we can help people heal through Al-Anon, through support groups. There's health and happiness and working through bereavement. There are so many different ways in which we can help people to heal. And we also provide knowledge and insights. And you're going to hear more about this in one of the focuses that we're moving forward into. It's the third focus of where we want to be sure that we're on the leading edge and that we have our eyes on the horizon and where we're headed. And also we want to provide a supporting community for you to allow your transformation to happen in your time and gestation of your spirit and to come into its fruition. So how do we plan on focusing on these in the next 5 years? Well, I will turn this over to Laura to talk more about that.
So for you that have taken our surveys and seen some of the outcomes and just, as you see this, you're like, yeah, of course, right? So I think what you're going to see as we move into these focus areas isn't so much a huge pivot from who we are. It's really a fine-tuning. And the recommendations and all that we went through and all these conversations and focus groups and surveys, we heard what came out, and it's who we are, right? And so with these focus areas, what we really wanted to do is sort of sharpen and fine-tune that directional focus, right? So as we look at programming, as we look at what's going on here, as we look at the individuals that we're attracting, that we can be really intentional and really on purpose. And so the first focus area is what we call engaged, committed community of service. And we're going to go through each of these. The team's going to walk through those, so I won't do that right now. The second one of those is transformational programs. The third focus area is ongoing creativity and renewal. And then the fourth one is what we call sustainable operations. And so for the first one, and then of course, the underpinning of all of this, which we had at one time, and what came out of the survey was really love and acceptance was like number one on everyone's list of like what keeps you here, why you want to be here, right? But what we realized, and this we kept going around and around, but this is just like McDonald's has got the Big Mac, remember the song? This is our Big Mac, right? This is our secret sauce of who we are. It's in our DNA, is love and acceptance. And so what we opted to do, as opposed to making it a particular focus area, because everything we do touches this, it is the underpinning, right? It is the foundation of all of our focus areas, but we didn't want to lose sight of that and get complacent. We wanted to keep an intentional energy around love and acceptance. So with the first one is Neil.
So this focus area is really near and dear to my heart because for 23 years now, this really has been my spiritual home. It's been my community of choice, and also for my dear wife Jennifer and for our kids as well. So we've grown here, and as the vision team, as we discussed all of these issues, we kept on asking the question, for any individual congregant or member, you know, what is it that helps that person make a transition from UCOH being a place that they go to being a UCOH being a place where they want to be, where they want to spend their time, you know, a place that they really want to hang around at. And so when does it become my church or my home? When am I all in? And when we, in that congregational survey back in May, if you remember, we asked the question, what keeps you coming back to UCOH? And one of the top answers was belonging and connection. Isn't that really all that we really want? You know, it's key to that sense of being home or being a spiritual home. And in a big church like this, that can often be challenging to make those personal connections. So we're really emphasizing a renewed focus on small groups where you can make those personal connections. Obviously, spirit groups is one of those, but any book study group, prayer group, meditation group, anytime you have a chance, a grief and loss group, to connect with a smaller group of people, you know, whether that be a dozen or 20 or 30, but something where you can make that personal connection. So that's one. And then also we realize that we've sort of fallen away from a very simple but potent and an important aspect, which is just simple social gatherings, potlucks, picnics, you know, retreats, things that people can really gather together, break bread, make connections. So that's one area that we wanted to really emphasize. And another was service. We talked a lot about service and obviously being in that flow of receiving and giving. And very often when you're being of service, you give yourself permission to receive. But we also wanted to make sure it wasn't being pushed or, you know, out of obligation or guilt, but rather something that people would be excited about. And we also talked about providing another level of service that people could become lay leaders in the church and really, you know, step forth even further and sharing what they've received. So really, it's just all of it. To summarize the whole thing, it's really about fostering an environment where UCOH feels like a spiritual home and a community of choice. And we want that for all of us and for all the people that are still yet to come.
Good afternoon. So when I first came to this church, I did not know who I was as a human being. I thought I knew, but it was the moment that I stepped foot in this congregation that I began receiving tools that helped me to figure that out for myself. There wasn't anyone coaching me about who I should be, but I was given everything that I needed to figure that out for myself, to discern that for myself, to learn that for myself. And that set me on my spiritual path. And so the next focus group has to do with transformational programs. We provide a clear path to engaging at UCOH so congregants can learn, grow, and transform their lives. I've been at this church for 9 years. The number 9 in numerology is the number of completion. And I feel like at this point in my life, after 9 years, I'm ready to move forward in a way that is healthy, that is transformative, that is allowing me to become the individual that I am meant to be in this life. And I think anyone sitting in this room can speak to what I just said Everyone has a story, not a story, everyone has a testimony about how this spiritual community impacted their life in a way that they've been transformed. And so what we hope to achieve through this visioning process and through the strategic plan is establishing a clear map for successfully engaging in spiritual growth at UCOH. What happens to someone beyond the path class? Someone who is brand new to the unity movement, the New Thought movement, what is that path of growth of spirituality for them? As Kristen mentioned, we have a lot of tools here to empower you to transform your lives, but this vision work and the strategic plan work is a way to organize those tools so that we develop clear pathways for someone that is new to unity, someone that has been here for about 10 years, someone who's been in the movement for 20 years and is just moving right on to enlightenment. There is a pathway in mind for you, regardless of where you are in that journey. And so this visioning process and strategic planning process is extremely important. The ways in which we're doing that, again, is to establish clear maps for successfully engaging in spiritual growth at UCOH. We're also evaluating and updating current processes and structures to identify opportunities and create efficiencies. For example, the evaluation of facilities, the use of software and process, anything that ties to the methods that you've been given to help grow and transform your life. We're also developing spiritual mentorship programs to create clearer connections and facilitate personal spiritual growth and development. All of this stuff that you're seeing up here, no matter what the focus group is, it's all tying into this one thing, where we are a space of love and acceptance where lives are. You get the idea. And so transformational programs are a big deal at this church, and it's not like anything that I've ever seen in any other church or institution that I've been to. We are unique. We are diverse. We are on the cutting edge of spiritual growth in ways that many people I don't think are really thinking about. But the minute that new thought of what spiritual growth and development is to you, it allows you to be empowered to transform your life. Thank you.
Anybody in their lives experiencing any change? This focus area, creativity and renewal, John Peterson, the futurist that came and talked to us, he did this very elaborate talk about how change is occurring in our lives at an increasing volume and an increasing acceleration. What used to take 400 years to evolve became 100, became 10, became 1, and is now occurring daily throughout this world. He really imprinted that on us. And what this about, I call it R&D. Anybody know what R&D is? Research and development. It's also renewal and development. And what dawned to us during our deliberations and discussions was, you know, these 23 years have been spent really solidifying who we are. We all know who each of us are individually and collectively. This church is solid. It is on solid footing. It has been from day one, it seems as though. But if we're going to be that participant in the future of a movement, we have to have our eyes and ears up. We have to be reaching out into the world to find out what are the newest things coming in terms of spirituality and religion. What are churches facing in terms of the demographic changes, belief changes? And so this one is about R&D, research and development, keeping our eyes and ears awake to what we're observing in the world and what others are observing in the world. And how can we take that very rich fabric of who we already are and make it relevant for the next person that walks through these doors. So it's all about outreach, eyes and ears up. Along with that change, we also want to continually provide renewal opportunities for our board, our leaders in this community, which include our board, our staff, and our ministers. So it's about allowing them and us structuring renewal opportunities for them to be ready for those changes that we see coming. So our focus areas is establish leadership development for ministers, staff, and board. Establish a UCOH R&D team. So if that really gets your juices flowing, be waiting to hear about something probably early next year about an R&D team made up of congregants that are going to be actively looking out into the world. What do we see coming? Technology, thought, demographic changes. And lastly, actively pursue a spiritual renewal program for our senior ministers. So that's, in a nutshell, what this one's all about. R&D, research and development, and renewal and development.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Phelan, and I am excited to be talking about the activity of the Vision team and what we've been doing for the past year. I'm excited how many people are here today. This is awesome that we have this level of participation at our annual meeting. I too was kind of shocked when we started last year without a vision and got really excited when this idea of, instead of the board going to a one-day retreat and developing a vision for that year, commissioning a group to spend a year getting information, feedback, input, researching, spending time in contemplation around developing a vision that then the board could take to their retreat and start to implement. There's a whole nother level of intentionality going on here. Before I talk about the specifics of the sustainability, why is it important for us to sustain this? And we've heard a lot of things here already. You know, Neil mentioned his family growing up in this church. My family did the same. There are lots of other families that have grown up in this church. When we asked how many people had experienced transformation here in this church, a lot of hands went up. That's, you know, the question was asked by Dino about why us, you know, what's so special about us, that secret sauce, that love and acceptance that comes from our consciousness. That's the thing. Austin is going to grow twofold in the next 20 years. Right now, the MSA is about 2 million people. In the next 20 years, we're going to have another 2 million people move to Austin. How are we going to realistically be able to provide the message to everybody that wants it and needs it in this area? And we've done an amazing job so far. There are people here today like Mark Hicks, like Donna, that we've launched, you know, into the world to carry this message out. But there's some things that need to be going on here for that to continue. And so that's the sustainability piece that we want to look at. And so sustainability really, in this case, is about growth. We didn't stop looking at growth. As a matter of fact, one of the recommendations that came from the team was to remodify our vision statement. It used to be, we are an ever-expanding community, and it got shifted at one point to we're a community of ever-expanding love and acceptance. We're looking at maybe making that go back to the original one because we are expanding. And we have been. We've been launching people off into all parts of the world and the country to carry this love and acceptance forward. But there's more that we can do. And so the specifics of the immediate focus next steps on sustainable operations were first, financial health and abundance. We would like to retire our debt as quickly as possible. And we're already carrying that forward, yes. The refinancing activity of shortening our term on our note was a piece of that. Also, developing a cash reserve so that we can focus, not so much, staff doesn't have to focus on paying bills today, but we can focus our energies on carrying the message, you know, bringing our principles and living them out into the world. Funding this strategic plan, you're getting a very high-level introduction to these different classifications of work that we're proposing. There's a lot more depth to it that will go out to staff and so forth with regard to implementation, and then the board's going to be implementing that as well. The expansion of our physical and virtual spaces was another piece. And one of the first conversations that we had after we did the survey was we sat down with kind of a group of the founders of this church to get that piece of historical knowledge, that piece of what was the original intention of this church, and how do we carry that forward? Because there was a strong vision that created this with very few people and a lot of intensive energy. And how do we continue that forward into our mission? And so we've brought that into it as well. there's so much to say, but I want to keep this quick. But the big deal here is that we continue to recommit ourselves, however we are moved, so that this thing continues for the next generations. My children are off living an amazing life, and their worldview was shaped here. The way they see themselves, the way they see the world and God's activity in the world was influenced in this incubator. My own experiences of people mentoring me, Jim Skaggs is sitting in the office, in the house here, and he spent time showing me how to be on a board. I've carried that out and been involved in other nonprofits now. I've created another nonprofit. And that's the kind of thing that we want to do here. It's so exciting. Kristen started the piece this morning about the little lion cub growing up into this lion. We have a voice. It's powerful. Let's stay committed to it, and let's see this place grow. That's all I got. Thanks.
Okay, so I get to have all the fun. I get to talk about love and acceptance. You guys don't know anything about love and acceptance out there, do you? No? Okay. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that because that by the way, I'm Liz McAleese. Sorry about that. Love and acceptance was top of the heap on the survey, and during our vision team meetings, love and acceptance was continually coming up, and love and acceptance is something that we all take for granted here because most of us have been coming here long enough to have gotten used to it. I know I have, and so when I gave this some thought, I thought about what did it feel like when I first started coming to Unity Church of the Hills? What did that feel like? So take a second and think about what did that feel like to you when the first time you realized that Unity Church of the Hills was your spiritual home. Maybe not the first time you walked in these doors, but the first time you said, oh my gosh, I'm home. I mean, you probably brought tears to your eyes. I know it did mine. I will say, though, the first time I walked in these doors, I didn't know this was my spiritual home, but I was at an all-time low, spiritually bankrupt and seeking. And I did not know a place like this existed. It was just sort of a luck of the draw that I wound up here. I walked in these doors, and the love and acceptance was just overwhelming. I had never been anywhere where I felt that before. Never. And I've had a good life. But to collectively have a group of people putting out that kind of energy, it blew my mind. And it actually, frankly, kind of scared me. I thought, what's up with these people? How can they be so happy? Seriously, I said, is this real? Can this be real? So I came back again and again and again until finally, not too long after, it dawned on me. I found my tribe. I'm home. Oh my gosh. And then I dove in head first to learn everything that I could learn. But you guys, we've got something super special here. So special. The love and acceptance, we have it in spades. It's not even questioned. We don't even think about it, but it's here. And it's what the world needs. It's what this chaotic, confusing world that we live in needs. There's people out there who are seeking. They don't know what they're seeking, but they're seeking something just like what we all get to enjoy. How wonderful is that we're here? John Peterson, Kristen mentioned Mr. Peterson, he was phenomenal. And he did say, and I'll paraphrase, he said, this is important, don't mess it up. And I saw this man, this serious, world-renowned futurist, get tears in his eyes because he feels it's so important. He feels like we are uniquely poised in this world to make a huge difference. A huge difference. And it's all because of the energy that we have here. And then it all goes back to the love and acceptance that people feel when they walk in these doors. It is the very fabric of who we are. It's our DNA. It's the thread in the fabric of who we are, actually, because if you pulled out the thread from the fabric of the tapestry, there would be nothing. It would all fall apart. So that's what holds us all together. So our mission on the vision team is to step boldly into our future and to shine our light so bright that everybody in this community and farther that are seeking what we have, they'll know where to find us. They'll know where to find us. And one person at a time, one soul at a time, can come here and they can transform their lives. And then they can take that out into their world and share that. Because that's really the way energy works, right? So, in closing, I have a quote from Dr. David Hawkins, somebody's favorite. Dr. Hawkins says, "One individual who lives and vibrates to the energy of pure love and reverence for all life will counterbalance the negativity of 750,000 individuals who calibrate at the lower weakening levels." Do you realize what an impact we have already on this world? Think about if everybody who needs to find us can find us, so let's shine that light on that bridge and take them to a safe haven. Let's do this thing.
See what I mean by all the talent that we have here at Unity Church of the Hills? I know all of you could get up here and speak from your heart's passion too. I have the joy of kind of wrapping this up. Have you ever seen an arch bridge, or an arch of an archway that you walk under, and that each of those stones rests upon the other until the final keystone is placed on the top, and then the scaffolding can be taken down, and that whole arch gives support to one another. That bridge, that arch kind of feeling, we have an arch above our driveway, it has a keystone in the middle of it. You all are our keystone. You all, your talents, your skills, your wisdom, your joy, your passion, your purpose is that which is being called here to rest upon those that are to your right and to your left, and together we create something so strong and so profound. Jesus Christ, actually it was the Apostle Paul, talks about the body of Christ in 1 Corinthians 12:20. He says, "There are many members, yet one body. Collectively, we create a whole." Because we are here and playing our part. And when we share our gifts, miracles happen. This is the vision that will require all of us, every skill, every talent, every person that is here, and those who are not yet here, and those who are just joining us, to organize and to create and to liberate our spiritual potential, as well as to support others in fulfilling their spiritual potential and thereby bring transformation. Unity Church of the Hills, we are up to this task. We invite you to be the keystone, and we have little keystones to share with you to help you know what is the next step. We've covered a lot of information in a very little time. These cards that they're handing out right now, which are keystones, and they are yours because you are our keystone. We'll hold the next steps where you can go for more information on our website. As I said, the board members are going to gel with the vision, and they're going to take a look at it, and we're going to have a day-long retreat to where we'll put some focuses on where we're going to be headed in the next year. And once we have created those focuses from the board level, on February 3rd, we will be coming forth with another congregational meeting to let everyone who feels a call to be a part of this, to feel and to learn into it, and to see how you can participate in it. So this is a time where we'd like to have questions and answers. And Laura, if you wouldn't mind standing up here, does anybody? Yeah.
I'm sorry, my name is Dino Di Filippi, and I'd like to presence, a vision, a very specific, clear vision that I have for this place. That is, on the 9:30 and the 11:30, that this place is not only packed, but the entire lobby is packed with people, with videos, sharing the spirit that I have never in my life, and I've been involved with consciousness for 50 years, and I have been here for 6 weeks, and there isn't 1 week where I haven't wept at least once, if not twice. So I'd like you to hold that vision, because that is a very concrete, physical vision of much of what you're talking about, is it not?
Yes, it is, Dino.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dino. Thank you so much. Is there anyone who has questions or comments that you would like to share? Yes, Lynn.
I don't need a microphone. You can do that.
Okay.
I wanted to compliment the job that this team has done.
Oh, wow.
It feels a little like a graduation. I'm sitting up here with tears in my eyes because it has been a labor of love for every single one of us. And we do have on the website, our strategic vision page, we do have our recommendation set with the deeper document that we put together for the board. And as Kristen said, in terms of next steps, the board will be taking that, the new board will be digesting that over the next few months, taking that into their retreat. And then February 3rd, we definitely invite you back, because we'll be looking at more concrete next steps and the ways that we can all collectively get involved. But most of all, just keep shining your light. Just keep bringing that energy here, because without your energy, we can't get there. It is a collective vision forward, and we invite you to hold that in prayer and hold that in energy, as Dino said. And I appreciate you all entrusting us with this process and being part of this process. I've never seen this many people at a congregational meeting, and it says to me that we're hungry. We're hungry to take that next step of where we're being called to go. So thank you for being here.
I want to really thank Laura, because she has been our leader and the organizer and the person who puts all these great visionary graphics. Tammy helped support this one here, but she's just really had a passion and a voice and a willingness. Neil Fireisel has also helped to lead us and coordinate us. And every one of these team members, we would come a little bit tired at night, but 3 hours later, we're like, whoa, we get to do this. We're so excited. Thank you all so very much for your time and your energy. Thank you.
I'm Susan Heinrichs, and Bob and I were here at Unity the second Sunday that it started in the school. And we have put time and money and talent and everything. And I just have to tell all you guys, I cannot tell you what this means. Neil knows. This feels like the original group that got together. This moves my heart, because everything does go in circles and up and down, but this feels like the next step, the next level. And I not only ask, I beg, I plead, jump in and have fun with all of us together. And let's make this, I see you, Jim, Betty. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, okay. I just love you all for being here and saying, yes, let's do it.
We love you, Susan. God bless you all. Thank you, honey. Thank you so much. Was there someone else? Yeah, a couple of other people. Sure enough. Yeah.
This is such an important project, and it's really, we were originally not going to stay, but something told me, you have to stay today for a reason. And I do feel the energy. I feel that it is important that we stick together and even grow this group. And I don't know if I misunderstood what the piece of paper we got. We're not getting together again till February 3rd. I would suggest that if we could get together, like just to meditate and pray, to be enlightened, to get ideas, and make this energy grow so that when February 3rd comes around, we've been more enlightened.
One of the things that has always turned me on about this place is the love and acceptance. And the thing about love and acceptance that I really get is that whoever each of us is valid here. The reason we've got, 500 volunteers or some insane amount is that every single one of us, as different and diverse as we are, has something we can contribute in the way that's ours. I was involved in the high-end audio community, which is a really esoteric, real niche-y sort of thing. And you got really involved in high-end audio, but then you completely lost sight of the rest of the world that needed to learn more about music as a spiritual, emotional, involving thing. That's the opportunity we have, is to touch everyone and just welcome them in with that love and acceptance, so that whoever they are, they don't have to look like us, they don't have to be like us. If they can get that it's okay to bring who and whatever they are here, we'll grow this thing. And it's a lot easier that way, just to hold the principles as opposed to the things.
What a meeting, huh? Yeah. How many times do you go to a business meeting and walk out inspired? Here. So at this point, everybody stand up for a second. Look to the person to your right, say namaste. Look to the person to your left, namaste. Feel the love here. And it is in that love we adjourn this meeting.